Alison Chelsey, the skilled musician and vocalist from Helen Money, invites you to join us for an exclusive interview. Real rock and roll news. From the legends of rock, you found rockonamerica.live. We're bringing rock and roll to America and beyond. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
In the heart of Chicago, a unique sound resonates. It's not the usual blues or jazz you'd expect. No, it's the soulful strains of a cello, played by none other than Alison Chesley. Born in California in January 1960, Chesley, who also goes by the stage name Helen Money, has been redefining the music scene. A cellist, a composer, a trailblazer. Helen Money breathes life into her cello, creating a symphony that's a fusion of classical and contemporary. With every note, she tells a story, evoking emotions with her instrument in a way words could never do justice. So who is Alison Chesley, you ask? She's the woman who took the cello beyond the orchestra, right into the heart of rock and roll. Pioneering a unique genre, she's a testament to the power of music and the magic of innovation. Helen Money shows us that when it comes to music, the only limit is your imagination. Alison Chelsey, the skilled musician and vocalist from Helen Money, invites you to join us for an exclusive interview with Mark Lewis.
Hi, this is Mark with R.O.A.M magazine, and today I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing a woman who is going to be making a mark on music. She's already on the new Anthrax album, Worship Music. And we're going to touch on this slightly. I'm going to bring it up because her playing style was hauntingly similar to Anthrax is very perfect. It was haunting in its own right with the classical orchestration and instrumentation on State of Euphoria and I'll be all, and I'd asked her and she had said no, she wasn't on the song, but she has recently just listened to the song and kind of see why I would think that. Without further ado is, do you mind if I give you your real name too so that everybody can find you too that way, or do you just
Absolutely.
Okay, Alison Chesley, also known as Helen Money. How are you doing? How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I think for this, I'm just going to refer to you as Helen, just so we can keep people on track for the album too, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So Helen, let me do this going back though. I'm going to jump off at this point though, real quick, and then we'll kind of backtrack and go forward. I mean, listening to the song, I mean, you can see what I was talking about, right? Why I had thought that they had picked you, and I thought maybe it played on State of Euphoria because of the sounds in there and the way that the song was geared.
Right, yeah, no, I could definitely see why you thought of that song.
And we're going to get into this, and people understand more about this as we talk about the album. But anyway, when you were growing up as a kid, what were you? Because you played with a variety of different people, and you've worked with Portishead, and you're playing this. I can't remember his name offhand. I'll have it in a second. But one of the members of Fugazi, I'll get that here in a second, with Joe Lally from Fugazi. And you're on tour with Shellac and Joe Lally, and you've done a variety of things. And you're not necessarily, it's kind of like Apocalyptica, if you're familiar with Apocalyptica.
Yes, uh-huh.
Okay, if I had known that when I was playing the cello when I was 8 years old, I would have never quit. I wouldn't have tried to go into the guitar or bass or anything else. I would have gone, this is cool. I heard that and gone, this is cool. You know, so it was, growing up, me being 44, we're in the same age range. We'll just leave it there. You know this as well as I do. Barring you heard like the Moody Blues album with Nice and White Satin and all that on that, you don't really hear classical orchestration overall for the most part of it, except certain things is more of a backdrop where it's very classical in rock music. Classical music always, even in that kind of had to stay classical, couldn't experiment, couldn't go out and do anything except if you get like an art noise thing where they just did everything and pushed all the boundaries. But it wasn't really, well, gee, I can go do a metal album playing being a cello player. I can go play rock. I can go play progressive jazz. I can do this. So when you were a kid, though, you have this wide palette of musical taste. I can tell that you're influenced by a lot, too. When you were growing up as a kid, what did you listen to?
Oh, nothing I'd want to admit to.
Okay. I'll oppose myself, but I listen to disco along with everything else when I was 13 years old.
Yeah, I'm sure I was just listening to whatever was on the radio, although I did listen to classical music because, I'm taking cello lessons. But I didn't really start to listen to music other than classical and get excited about it until I was like in my early 20s.
Okay, what were you listening to at the time?
In my early 20s?
Yeah, like what excited you? What did you really start digging on?
The Who.
Okay.
Yeah. My brother turned me on to Who's Next, and that was like the first rock album I really kind of got it. And then I got into Quadrophenia, and I got into The Clash, and then then I was just way into it.
Did you start having any ideas when you were listening that maybe the cello could go somewhere different?
No, not at all, actually. No, I just enjoyed it, and I went to shows, and I listened. I didn't try and play a cello with it.
Okay, where did you get the idea to start, hey, I can do something different with this? Where did the idea come from, hey, the cello doesn't have to be a traditional instrument, just be classical. We can do other things with this. Where did you start getting the ideas for that, which brings you to eventually to where you're at right now? How did that come about?
Well, I went to grad school at Northwestern because basically I spent like my 20s going to rock shows and kind of getting an education, I guess, in music other than classical. And then I decided I needed to kind of do something with my life. So I thought, well, I'll go back to school. Maybe I'll teach at a university. And so I went to Northwestern and was studying cello there. And I met someone at this coffee shop I was working at. He was a guitarist. And he was way into Bob Mould's workbook album. And there's cello all over that. And it's very aggressive. It's not typical string playing. So he had that in mind. His name was Jason RDC. He had that in mind, and I always liked that kind of music, so when the two of us got together, we just came up with stuff that was more aggressive and not necessarily typical string stuff. So that's kind of how I started doing that.
What went through your mind when it really sank in? Wow. I mean, because you really pushed the boundaries of was apocalyptic one of the things because that was only like the last couple, 3 years, although they've been around for a few years before that. Was that one of the things, too, that really made the light bulb go off? Or what was, as you say, the light bulb kind of went on and you're like, oh my God, there's a whole new world here. What brought you to the point where you started becoming Helen Money and you started developing who you are now with your playing style? What do you think was the kind of the linchpin, if you will, or kind of the shining moment, if you will, that made you realize this is where you could go and you could do amazing things?
Well, I think it was just playing with Jason, like in 93, 94, and us playing music that was really aggressive. And it was just cello, acoustic guitar, and voice. And I was basically holding down the bass line and also doing melodies. And we were playing stuff that wasn't punk rock, but it was aggressive. And I was just kind of making stuff up, and then I started to, we got to open for Bob Mould, and we did some touring with him, and we just, I don't know, I think that kind of just starting to play that, I think you just kind of find yourself in a situation, and like I realized that I really loved doing that, like I was all of a sudden playing the music that I liked on my cello, and, that was back in like 93, so I kind of didn't really have a role model as a cellist, maybe. It just kind of, all of a sudden, I think it just happened, And then I got, a distortion pedal and a delay pedal. And then I could hear different sounds with my cello, and I really liked that. So it was almost kind of a natural thing in a way.
Okay, let me ask you this, because I have not actually heard about that, and that's what Apocalyptic is doing. How do you get... Because I remember playing the cello, I remember everything just totally acoustic. How did a pedal come out for a cello? How does all this work?
Oh, there are no cello pedals. They're all guitar pedals.
Okay, so how do you work this with like an acoustic instrument, and how do you get that electrified? How do you do all this? I know one guy named Mark Wood electrified violins and made 6-string violins, but there wasn't anything with the cello, and that was the only other thing that came out. Now that I remember that too, because there was one bizarre little album he did called Voodoo Violins, where it was a heavy metal album that was all violin only.
Oh, okay.
And he electrified that. Have you electrified the cello?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically all you do is you put a pickup on it, which is something that takes the sound and turns it into a current, and then there's a 1/4-inch jack on the end, and you plug in the cord, and you can run through any kind of effect, and then you run through an amp, and it's kind of easy.
Okay.
So it's pretty, anybody could do it.
You know why I'm asking that, because this is still kind of, I think, in some ways virgin territory musically. Outside like Apocalyptica and that, it's still kind of new territory.
Well, there's most of us out there, you wouldn't, I mean, there's more people than you would think doing stuff like this. And this, you know, I'm sure there's even people in the 70s and stuff that were plugging in their acoustic instruments, like string instruments, and trying to get different sounds on it.
Got ya. What were some of the other albums previously to the new one that you've worked on, and some of the projects? Let everybody know who you've worked with, including Portishead.
Well, Portishead, I haven't played with them. They invited me to do a festival they were curating in London.
Right.
So I haven't worked with them. I played on the Broken Social Scene album. I played on stuff like, because I lived in Chicago, I was working, you know, I got to record a lot at Steve Albini's studio, got to play on some Mono records, the Four Carnation, that's a band I played for, the C&K, kind of Chicago bands, and some, you know, like at John McIntyre had Sona Studio, so I played some stuff there. So, you know, it's fortunate because I lived in Chicago, I was kind of able to tap into that scene.
Did you ever do anything with the blues scene, or go to hang out, or do anything with those guys too? I mean, because in some ways the cello's not that different from the bass. Did you ever have you had thoughts of doing any of that as well?
Blues music?
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to. I'm a huge Jimi Hendrix fan. So, but I feel like blues is one of those things that, you know, you could play really badly, really easily. Yeah. So I don't even want to go there. I would love to, you know, I'd love to explore that, but I don't feel that I've really put the time in to do it right, you know.
I don't know with your playing style, because you're very, very different and you're very, very professional. And with the new album, which we're going to go into in just a couple of minutes here, and you're familiar with Frank Marino too, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay. Oh, I will tell you a little bit about Frank Marino for a couple minutes when we're done. Frank Marino is where Jimi Hendrix is I believe going to go. Had Jimi Hendrix not passed away. There are things that Frank Marino was doing that Hendrix is starting to do, that what Hendrix has been doing that Frank Marino totally unrelated, unknowing about, not knowing about him in any way, had started doing, and then he kind of expounded on that and went off in different directions and has influenced a great number of the rock guitar players out there today that will give homage to him and Hendrix primarily.
Okay.
And I think I would love to hear if you do. I think people who listen to the album that fall in love with your playing style and your music might say, Helen, go to the blues album. I think actually knowing how you are from actually seeing from the music, I have this feeling that you would probably make it work.
Well, thank you. That's a compliment.
And if you're based in, if being out of Chicago, worst thing that can happen is you go to a musician's jam and give it a shot.
Oh, yeah.
And that. So, I mean, that might be something to keep in the back of the mind for, like, maybe the next album or something.
Yeah.
But,
no, I'm definitely, I have a lot of respect for that music.
Oh, I do too. You also work with Frank R.O.A.M in some capacity too, from Boy Dog Pondering. Who are some of the artists that you work with too? Because I kind of want to build up the resume for you, if you will, for people that don't know you.
Yeah, Boy Dog, I was basically playing string arrangements with that band. I love Frank. He's really inspiring and original. But I would say I was mostly in the string section in that band.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think mostly, I spent maybe 7 years in Verbo, and then when I got out of that, then I kind of, I played with Boy Dog for a little, and then I started to get into my own thing, and I haven't really been, I haven't really tried to play in another band, since then. So, I don't know if that'll happen, or I'll probably just keep doing my own thing.
You never know. It might. You never know. It's just. I think that you're an artist that could literally go anywhere that you wanted to go.
Well, thank you.
I really don't. To be honest, I don't think that you have artists that are really good. You have artists that touch greatness. You have artists that go into greatness, and you have artists that, along with that, are just ingenious in their own right. And you would fit in that category because those artists go off and do the art pieces. They do what some people would consider, is that music? Bizarre. The Frank Zappas of the world.
Yeah.
They have a vision. They do something different. And I would say that you would fall into that category, at least in some sense. At least in some senses, you do fall in that category because it's visionary to do what you do as a cello, and it's different. And I think just like Frank Zappa, I personally think Frank Zappa, if he's ever asked you, Terry, go, no, I'm just going to do what I like doing. People like it or they don't care.
Right.
And I think that if there was a genius that came out of there, that he, to this day, I can sometimes only handle him in small doses. It's still like 30, 40 years ahead of time. And your music's kind of like that too. It has this genius level in there that it's just way ahead of itself. But it's still current today.
Well, thanks, Mark. I appreciate that. Quite a compliment.
Well, it's also true, though. I don't give compliments lightly, and I'm very, very objective when I say things like that. So it is also all true, though, too. So, first of all, do you mind talking about the tour a little bit first and how you got hooked up with all this, and then we'll go into albums and promote that last?
Yeah, I have to go to a sound check in like 20 minutes.
Oh, we'll be done before then. We'll be done by then.
Okay. So you mean how I got hooked up with the shellac tour?
Yeah, and with Joe Lally and all that, because from what I understand, if I have this right, he's involved with that as well.
Yeah, he's actually a separate tour that we're starting in early November.
Okay, so we can promote that too. So let's talk about both of them for a couple minutes.
Okay, well the shellac tour, I think this is my 4th tour with those guys. I think Bob Weston heard my music. And Steve knew me from working at Electrical, coming in and doing sessions. And I'm not sure if he had heard my music also. But one day I just got an email from Steve, and I figured it was him asking me to be on a session, and he wanted me to open for them at the Hideout in Chicago. And I think actually Todd Traynor too. I don't know this for sure, but I think he also was interested in the idea of having a woman performer opening. Okay. Another guy. And so I opened that gig, and then they asked me to do a tour after that. And so I think it's really easy for them to have me along because my setup is super easy. And I think it's something different from what they're doing, which is nice for them, and also I think nice for their audience. It's not another band that's trying to sound like shellac.
Right.
So I think in that way it really works well. And it's great for me, of course.
And what are the last dates that are going to be on besides tonight? What are the remaining dates on that?
Let's see, we play Las Vegas tonight, then we go to LA for 2 shows tomorrow, then we're up in Oakland for 2 dates, then we play Portland and Seattle. I think we end a week from Friday.
Okay, and then how is this going to be different from going out to Joe Lally?
Well, because this is just me opening, and with Joe, I'm actually playing with him in his band as well. So I'm going to be opening and playing with him.
So what should everybody expect musically and sonically when they see you with Joe?
It's not going to be Helen Money. Joe's stuff is pretty sparse for the most part.
Okay.
And really interesting. I think probably the things I do will be more just part-oriented, supporting what he's doing. But I think it'll be interesting. He really likes the cello, and he actually, a couple of the songs on this new album have cello on it, so I think it'll fit in really well with what he's doing.
Cool, and I have the album. The album, even though I sent it recently, it's still a current album for you. In tune, it follows your self-release Helen Money. What do you think are the differences between the albums and the similarities? Like the main difference and the main similarity between the 2 albums?
The first one and this last one?
Yeah.
This last one's darker. In tune, I would say is darker. And it's more, the first album, I think I'm still figuring out what I wanted to say. And I think this last album, I figured out what I wanted to say, and it was kind of dark.
Okay, and
yeah.
No, go ahead.
But I think, so I don't know, that's been interesting for me, because I don't think I would have expected that, but I really like it.
Okay, and I want to make this comment, and I'll ask you a question really quick. Do you want to talk about, because I know you don't have a lot of time, but we do have enough if we did do this. Do you want to talk about briefly each track in the album, or pick 3 or 4 of them?
Yeah, maybe we could do 3 or 4. Are there ones that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I'm going to pick one because I was intrigued with the name on it, and then I'm going to let you pick the rest of them. But I want to say this is a described album, because I've done something here recently by another artist that was a totally released. Hank Williams III, basically, he's going by Hank 3 now. He released 4 albums at the same time. And one of them is like if you sat Warhol and Zappa at a table. There were different layers in there. It's completely different than what you did with this. But this album, in that sense, has layers to it. It's kind of like peeling an onion a little bit. I played it for fun. I played it for some different friends and that people I know. And just very briefly, a couple of them had looked at it and go, I don't think I can handle this. And they just heard like 2 seconds of it because they heard you just kind of like doing different things on the shelves first before each song leads in. It's like going into the water. You kind of can't see anything per se on looking down at the water, but when you look down, you can see this beautiful landscape underwater and scenery. And each song, you may hear if you just casually listen, well, it sounds like she's making noise and this and that. But what you're doing is you're building kind of like a plot line in a movie or a story, and you're building up to actually the music, and each song is really, really beautifully crafted and different.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm glad you did not take offense to that with the noise coming.
No, not at all.
I think if you, like the Hank 3 album, if you just listen to it on the surface, it's like, oh my gosh, what is he doing? But when you kind of really listen to it with the eyes and heart of your soul, you don't just listen with your ears. You can actually kind of see what he's doing. And with you, once you get past the initial surface of the water, you can see this amazing wonderland of music, of things that are different and magical. And it's just very, very amazing, and everything beautifully ties together. It's kind of almost like a Picasso painting in a sense, or a Dali painting. You kind of look at it and go, or an Escher drawing, and you look at it and go, okay, what was the person doing? And then as you get into it, it all becomes in focus very quickly. And I think it's beautiful. I think he did an amazing job with that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's nice. I'm glad that it made sense.
It makes but you have to give them more than 3 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
That's what my friends were doing, 3 to 15 seconds. But, not in the mood today, dude, and I'm going to be playing it from On the Way to Judas Priest. But it's like, remember that album? It's like, you have to listen to it. And other people I played it for, they gave it a shot and really listened to it, fell in love with it.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I kind of feel like I wonder if part of it is our culture, too. We kind of are, you know, we don't sit down and listen to albums anymore. Or at least I think some people do, but, you know, we used to do that, and now it's kind of, we're a little impatient. I think.
Yeah, Burger King mentality, we want it now, and we want it right now, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, let me do this. The first song is, the album's called In Tune. The album it's still on the same label as Radium.
Right.
Okay. And the song I found the most intriguing was Political Song for Michael Jackson to sing.
Yeah.
Do you mind giving kind of the thoughts and a little bit of background behind that?
Well, that's a Minutemen cover, and the reason I did that is I was thinking that a lot of the songs on the album are long, and like I was saying, pretty dark, and I thought it would be fun to do something short. And I followed the Minutemen a lot in LA in my 20s, and I knew their songs were short, and I also really liked them. And so I just grabbed the album Double Nickels on a Dime and was listening to it. And I listened to that one, and I thought maybe I could pull it off. And so that's why I did that one. And then I realized that a lot of that song is George Hurley's drumming, and that I would have to try and do something rhythmic for it to work. But I ended up finding out a way to do that. So I'm really glad I put it on there because it's really fun to play in the set, and I think it kind of gives the album a little bit of a breather, you know.
It's very, very different. It's kind of like the shorter respite in there in a different way. It's like, oh, that was cool.
Yeah.
Let me ask this before you go into a couple, 3 songs. I do want to ask you, just curiously, does track 1 MF stand for what I think it stands for?
No, it doesn't.
Okay, good. I'm glad you picked up on that. Is there any meaning behind that at all, that song title?
Yeah, it's the initials of someone I'm really close to.
Okay.
So, yeah.
If they listen to this, I hope they're not insulted, but I saw that and went, okay, it is a little bit darker and it's a little bit heavier and a little bit more aggressive. Maybe that stands for what I was thinking it was.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I kind of knew that was what people would think, and that's fine.
And that's why I wanted to approach that to see if I was right or I was wrong on that. I was wrong, and that's okay, and that's all cool. What are 2 or 3 of the songs that you really like? Let's do this. One that was really, really the most challenging on the album. I do ask you sometimes, like, what's your favorite song? And I have to go, what's your favorite song currently? Because it's like children. How do you pick one over the other one? So I'm going to let you, if you could pick maybe the one that was the most challenging to work with, and then the 2 other ones, 1 or 2 other ones, just whatever you'd like to talk about them.
Well, I really like Too Heavy. And that one was kind of hard to record only because I wanted it to be really heavy sounding and big, and it was a little hard to reproduce that in the studio, but I think in the end we did. And that one I just like playing because it's kind of meditative, but it's kind of dark at the same time. So,
and then we have plans to do 2 more if you'd like.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap up.
Okay, Mark. Well, I liked everything I was thinking, even though I wasn't happy with that song. And
that's actually my favorite song on the album, too.
Oh, really? Yeah, my boyfriend's like, no, that's cool. It's okay that you just have the one melody over and over. And I ended up figuring out a way to play it live. And actually, I really enjoyed doing that one live. And the other one would probably be Untilted, just because I play acoustic on that one, and I like hearing my cello acoustic.
Okay.
And that song kind of goes to a different place than the other one. So I enjoy playing that one, too. I like that one. And
then we need to do this, too, and I promise that when I do interviews, we'd always cover all the topics mentioned. You're on worship, and I mentioned this in the beginning, we have about, I think, 10 minutes left, so we have enough time to do this really quick. Can you kind of just briefly, and I know you said you're on, like, I think you said 3 songs, and I have to go back and listen to the album more in depth, but you're playing on, like I said, your playing style made me think you were on End All Be All, and I can see why Anthrax chose you to be on the album. You worked with Charlie, and you said that you'd gone to his house to record this and everything. What was that like, and can you let everybody know the songs that you run on the album Worship Music, which is the new Anthrax album, and just kind of give an overall what the whole experience is like?
You know, I don't remember the names of the cuts, and I think the titles even changed after I recorded on them.
Okay, but they will be you are on the track listings and on the credits, so everybody can find them, though.
No, but it'll be obvious.
Yeah.
And there's one song in particular that you could just, it's right up front and very prominent. And there's like another song where I'm playing along with either the guitar or the bass. It's really rhythmic. And then I think there's one other. Sometimes it's hard to tell when the cello's there, and like I said, that they changed the song titles. And
yeah.
It may have been that some didn't even have a title when I was playing them. But I think if you hear the album, you'll hear which ones I'm on.
You had said that, briefly before you said this, that Charlie had said that he had some ideas. He called you. Just briefly, kind of what happened. He gives you the call, what happens, and what was it like recording that? And then did you really know them that well before you went in there to record the albums?
No, I didn't. In fact, I never was really into the metal scene until maybe the last 5 years, and I feel like that crowd kind of adopted me. It's pretty active in Chicago. But Anthrax, I think the engineers knew me from sessions that I had done in from R.O.A.M, and so that's how I got the call. I don't think Charlie knew me, actually. But when I went in there, he kind of had really specific ideas what he wanted to hear. So working with him was really easy and really fun and really relaxed. He even played my cello for a little bit.
Really? What was that like?
It was fun. He just wanted to see what it felt like. So, it's kind of cool.
How did you do on it?
As much as can be expected for never having played it before.
Yeah.
But it was really a nice session. He's a really nice guy, and the engineers were great. So it was a really great experience. I really enjoyed it. I'm really thrilled I'm on there. I mean, it's great to hear. When you look back on that now, and the album, and it had issues when it was, we talked about people can research and look it up. But since that finally got released and you look back on that now, what do you think? And looking at, I don't know if you noticed, Anthrax played two huge festivals in this country with Metallica and that. Yeah.
When you look back on that now, what's kind of your thinking as opposed to just like, okay, don't really know who these guys are. I know they're a metal band. Charlie's a really nice guy. I'm going to go in here and do this. And now you look back on this now. What kind of went through your mind? It goes through your mind now as you look back on this and go, wow.
Yeah, I just think it's really cool that I was able to do that. I feel really fortunate, and I like their music. I listen to the record, I like it, and I think since then I've gotten to appreciate extreme music more. Because I have friends now that play it, and I played with some friends in Chicago of this band Yakuza. I played on their record, and I got to play some shows with them. So I have a lot of respect for that music, and I think the people who are into it are really intelligent and really open-minded.
And there's a lot of classical, as I learned about metal when I was growing up with the classical background, one thing I found was amazing was, and this, a lot of metal musicians and heavier musicians have classical music backgrounds.
Yeah, right.
And
it's interesting.
Would you agree with this? And we're gonna close this out. But Would you agree with that? Having a classical music background in particular gives you a different perspective for music?
Probably. I'm sure it does. The thing that I'm really grateful for is I feel like all that practicing gave me a really good sound. And my technique, I was able to make a really good sound on my cello, which that I feel like is kind of the most important thing to me. So that's what I feel like all that classical stuff gave me.
Well, let's do this. These are the last two things to wrap up. Where can everybody find you online, and where can everybody get the album? Both of your albums, actually.
Oh, okay. They can get my albums on my website. It's just HelenMoney.com. And I also have a Facebook page. I've got MySpace, but I don't really ever go there anymore because the ads kind of bum me out.
I don't think anybody's going there anymore. I found very few people are going in there. I don't even go there anymore, and I have one. I know.
And, so they can find out all my shows are up there on my website. And
do you do Twitter, too, or?
I don't, I don't. I should, but I don't.
Some people do, some people don't. I try to. So I found that. Do you have a Reverb Nation page? I'm finding that's becoming a big one.
Oh, no, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is this. I want to say thank you, first of all, to Ilk and Stacy over at Fly PR who set this up and everything. They sent the record out. They set up the interview. They are all. I've been very, very blessed. I said this in every interview when I mention PR people. I've been blessed that I've met nothing but wonderful PR people in the industry, and they fit right in there. They've just been absolutely wonderful blessings to me, and I want to say big thank you to them for that. And I want to say thank you to you for taking the time for this. And we had a little craziness. And by the way, yesterday was my fault. I looked in the email. One was you were going to call me, and then the other one was 3 days later I was going to call you, so it's my fault.
Oh, okay. No worries.
And I appreciate you being patient with this, but I'm going to let you take us out of here. Anything that you'd like to say to anybody? A lot of times I've got musicians, sometimes I've had musicians say I love you to family and friends. I've had a couple of guys get very prophetic, and then a lot of times it's just I'd like to thank this person, that person. We're done just hang on a mini microsecond, and I want to say thank you again, and then that's it. So go ahead and take us out of here, Helen.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all the people that go to clubs and go to see shows, and all the people that buy music and that are into music, because if you weren't into it, it wouldn't be happening.
And I am going to say interview over.